During the Knicks' 4-game losing streak, a star player has spoken out on the real reason for his struggles, and we got to break it all down. What's up, guys? I'm Matt Long. Welcome to Knicks Basketball 365. If you're a New York Knicks basketball fan, please hit that subscribe button. It really helps me out a ton. But let's jump right into the news for today. Coming from our insider, Mohamed Arslan from Clutch Points, Karl-Anthony Towns believes his struggles this season largely stem from adjusting to the New York Knicks offensive system. He said the transition has been tougher than expected and has affected his rhythm on the court. In Minnesota, Karl-Anthony Towns was a central part of the Timberwolves offense, particularly for his ability to score inside and stretch the floor. Over time, especially as Anthony Edwards emerged, the offense became more shared. With the Knicks, Towns is playing in a more structured system that emphasizes quick read and ball movement, which has resulted in fewer on-demand touches and less freedom to create compared to some of his Minnesota seasons. Now, if you've been paying attention, and I'm sure you have been paying attention if you're watching this channel, but Karl-Anthony Towns had a really bad night against the Detroit Pistons. Overall, the season has not been that bad for him, shooting 47.1%, 35.6 from three, which is low for Karl-Anthony Towns, 87.7% from the free throw line, which is very high, 11.5 rebounds per game, 2.8 assists per game, and 0.6 blocks per game, culminating in a 21.5 points per game season. A little bit lower than Karl-Anthony Towns' normal career average, but a little bit, and especially low when you are taking into account the new system coming in with Mike Brown, where we want to take a lot of threes and score a lot of points. Should be an offense perfectly tailored for what Karl-Anthony Towns is in particularly good at. For whatever reason, it is not showing up on the court. Karl-Anthony Towns is not really thriving in this Mike Brown system. And of course, this is a problem because Karl-Anthony Towns is supposed to be a player who is really tailor-made for this system. Part of the plan for Mike Brown is all five guys are going to be able to shoot. And what is the hardest position in the NBA to find that can shoot? That's your starting center. Karl-Anthony Towns, arguably the best shooting center in the history of basketball. He's added into that system. You would imagine, just looking at it from a bird's eye view, that seems like it would be a perfect fit. But now Karl-Anthony Towns is coming out and telling us that the lack of creativity and there's just too much structure that is hurting his ability to make plays. And unfortunately, it is currently hurting the Knicks on this 4-game losing streak. Really bad loss to the Detroit Pistons last night. 29 points. That is obviously unacceptable. Everyone likes to call out how poorly the defense has been playing, but we are currently only allowing the 11th, or we are currently allowing the 11th least points per game in the NBA. So we're actually in the upper half of defenses in terms of points per game allowed. I'm willing to hear the argument that's not a championship level defense, and I would absolutely agree. The defense to win a championship has to improve, but right now, the defense hasn't been as bad, and we're overreacting a little bit because of the current losing streak that we're on, which is understandable. I mean, we're supposed to be a top 3 team in the East. We're supposed to be competing to win a championship this season, and Mike Brown was supposed to be the guy who comes in and makes the pieces that we already had in place come together. Now, the problem is Karl-Anthony Towns, one of the most important pieces, isn't working, and he's not working because it's too structured. It's not working for reasons that really should not be rearing their heads as much as they are this deep into the season. For the first 15, 20, even 25 games, we knew there was going to be a learning curve. We knew there was going to be struggles. No one was going to be able, if it's an offensive system worth running, it's not going to be learnable immediately. So that would be understandable. But this deep into the season, we have to be able to figure something out. And we have certainly enough scoring with Karl-Anthony Towns and Jalen Brunson. The problem is pretty obvious with those players, which is they're not good on-ball defenders. We try to mitigate that issue by bringing in Wingstop with Mikal Bridges and OG Anunoby, 2 wings that are elite defenders. They're 2 guys that are able to schematically cover up the defensive shortcomings of Karl-Anthony Towns and Jalen Brunson. They're also going to be covering up the weaknesses of Tyler Kolek, who night in and night out seems to be becoming more and more of a real piece of this New York Knicks rotation, which is absolutely amazing to see. Every single Knicks fan loves to see that happening. But the problem with Kolek as well, not a good defender. So we have to figure out ways to get more defense going, and something has to click for Karl-Anthony Towns, whether it is, I don't want to say paying attention more in practice, because that implies that I am calling him out for not paying attention in practice, which I'm of course not doing. I mean, we've had no reports of that, and based off everything we've heard, the problem with practice is the Knicks have not gotten enough practice time because our schedule has been messed up by playing too many games with the midseason tournament, which was fun to win, but we are now seeing that on the back end of that, we are suffering from a lack of rest. We are suffering from playing too many games and a lack of practice time. So that's hurting us. As much fun as it was to raise that trophy, the New York Knicks are certainly being hurt as well after playing extra games in the midseason tournament. Now, Karl-Anthony Towns is going to have to find a way to get himself back on track. Too much structure being the reason that he is not able to figure it out is a little bit concerning, because the structure of the offense is not something that is going to change. Mike Brown came in before the season started with that structure of the offense already in place, and his job he is now tasked with is teaching the structure of that offense to our top offensive players. So if now one of our top offensive players can't learn it, that is a problem. And I'm not saying trade Karl-Anthony Towns, of course, because Karl-Anthony Towns and Mike Brown were clearly the two of the biggest pieces of Leon Rose's plan to construct this team. But it's a problem that Karl-Anthony Towns is the piece. It is like Karl-Anthony Towns is the one guy that you would think this would be absolutely tailor-made for, and it's not. Hopefully we can get this thing figured out, but that's what I got for this video. If you stuck around this long, I appreciate you taking the time to watch it all the way through. Please hit that like button if you haven't already. Hit the subscribe button if you're new to the channel, and go Knicks.